So this morning at about 4:35, one of our patrol officers on routine patrol on Cumberland Street saw an individual walking down the street with a firearm in his hand. The officer radioed into dispatch for additional cars. He turned around to try and engage the subject. He lost sight of him. That subject made it up into Kendrick Avenue, into the area there. While other units were responding, one of the sergeants that was involved in the scene saw the individual by a dumpster with a firearm in his hand. He got out of his police vehicle, began to approach him on foot. Brief chase began. The individual then turned around and fired at the police sergeant. There was an exchange of gunfire at that location between our sergeant and another officer that was there and the suspect. The suspect fled into a wooded area. For a period of time, we set up a perimeter that brought back a canine unit and some other officers to search that wooded area. While they thought they had that subject contained in that area, he somehow made it out of that area, but then came back at the officers and engaged the officers again, firing at one of our police officers, striking him in the left thigh. That police officer has been taken to Rhode Island Hospital where he was treated for a gunshot wound. He's since been released from the hospital, so it's good news. He's out of the hospital. He's been released. Officers continued their search of the area for this individual, who was located up the street here on Social Street in a parking lot down between two cars. Officers converged on that area. While they were responding into that area, he fired an additional shot. We don't know what he shot at that point. Officers contained him in that area for this entire time until just briefly. We've negotiated with him for over 2 hours or close to 2 hours to try and get him to come out. He did have a firearm in his possession, which at one point in the negotiations he did throw into the grass area, so we have recovered a firearm. He refused for a long period of time and right up into the end to show us his hands. So the tactical team who was on scene here deployed a distraction device, and our officers rushed him. He violently struggled with the officers but was taken into custody, and he's been transported to Landmark Medical by rescue, and that's where he's at this time.
What was the device that you used? Concussion?
Concussion flashbang.
Did he suffer any gunshot injuries?
He did not, as far as I know. He's got no gunshot injuries, and I'm not really certain what injuries he has, if any, other than with what just occurred with the scuffle with the officers.
How many shots were initially fired?
That's under investigation. There were multiple shots in the first exchange, and at the second exchange I know there were more shots. I don't have a total on that. The Attorney General's office is obviously here, along with members of the Rhode Island State Police, through the state protocol of when it's an officer-involved shooting, when we discharge one of our firearms at a suspect, whether he's hit or not. It's jointly investigated by the Woonsocket Police Department, who will be the lead agency, assisted and overviewed by the state police and the Attorney General's office.
Do you know who he is?
I'm not going to release his name at this time.
Do you know who he is?
We believe we know who he is, but we still haven't positively confirmed who he is. I'm not going to release the officer's name at this time. I'm not sure all of his family is aware of what happened this morning.
Was the suspect a Woonsocket officer? Or
yes, it was a Woonsocket police officer.
Excuse me, a Woonsocket resident, sorry.
I don't know where the individual comes from.
Mr. Coyne, what kind of charges could come from this?
At least initially, there's obviously shooting a gun and wounding a police officer is a very serious offense. So we have one team that will be focused exclusively on the appropriate charges against the suspect. We have other prosecutors who will be working on the officer-involved shooting end of things.
Will he be arraigned in the hospital today?
I don't believe so.
How many officers are involved in the officer-involved shooting investigation? Is it more than one?
Tentatively right now, it's still an investigation in progress. I believe I have up to 3 officers that discharged their firearms at different points in this incident, but that may be subject to change. We're still, with this being an active scene, we're just getting the officers together to actually have them give statements as to actually what part they participated in and what their actions were.
You had Woonsocket Police, the state police, any other agencies?
Yes, we had Blackstone. Police came in and assisted us. North Smithfield Police came in and assisted us. After our officer was shot, we put out an assistance call from surrounding departments, and they did a tremendous job coming and helping us make sure that we confined the suspect to where we had, so he didn't get away.
What happens now? What do you do now?
What happens now is these officers that were involved in it will walk the members of the state police investigative team, the Woonsocket Police and AG's office, through the different areas where they discharged their firearms and explain what they saw and what they did and why they did it. They'll go back to Woonsocket Police Headquarters, and some formal statements and interviews will be taken, and that case will be put together and reviewed by the Attorney General's office.
And you think the suspect fired on the officers here?
At this location here, I know there was a round fired. I don't know if he intentionally shot at an officer in that, but when they had initially converged in this area, there was a shot fired. What he was shooting at, I'm not certain.
And do you know roughly how long it was between the time he threw his weapon out and you went in with the concussion grenade?
We tried to speak with him for a good hour and a half to get him to actually show his hands and come out. At one point he said he would come out and show his hands if we brought a rescue. We brought the rescue in and sat there for a while with that and tried that. My tactical leader spoke to me, made an evaluation. At some point he was showing his hands, so we didn't believe, even though he did make some idle threats that he maybe had a second weapon, we were confident that we could deploy that device, distract him and take him into custody, which they did a good job.
What was his condition after the flashbangs went off?
He wasn't anywhere near the flashbang. He just continued to fight with police as a suspect would, who didn't want to be taken into custody.
Could you speak about having one of your own in the hospital shot?
Yeah, I mean, this is a dangerous job. They go to work, our officers, every day, every night. They don't know what the next radio call or what the next traffic stop is going to bring. It's dangerous work out protecting the people of the city of Woonsocket. They do a great job. I've spoken to the officer. He's good. Obviously, he's been through a lot. You know, he's at the police station right now. I'm hoping that when I get back that he's still there. If not, I told him obviously to go home and get some rest, and at some point we'll catch up. But yeah, it's dangerous work, and this is an example of what can happen.
And Chief, I'm sorry, did you say what type of weapon the suspect had?
I did not. It was an automatic handgun, but I'm not going to get into particulars on the
An automatic handgun?
Yes.
Illegal? Do we know?
I don't know at this point.
And it's believed that he shot first?
Oh, he definitely shot first.
So this is all started because somebody was seen walking with a gun in...
This individual was initially seen walking on Cumberland Street, from what I'm told, by one of our patrol officers on routine patrol, walking with a firearm in his hand.
And he saw the police and he started shooting?
He saw the police and at first fled up into Kendrick Street. He was hiding. The converging cars that came in, one being a sergeant, saw him off of Kendrick Street by a dumpster. Still had the firearm in his hand. The sergeant got out to confront him with that. Like I said, a brief foot chase began, but then the suspect turned around and fired at the sergeant, and that began the exchange of gunfire between the sergeant and that suspect and another officer, and that would have been in that Kendrick Street area. Then there was the second incident where he engaged our officers, where he actually shot one of our officers.
Where did that happen?
The exact location, I don't know. I believe it was off of Elm Street.
Was that the dumpster incident where the officer gets shot?
No, where the officer was shot was in the second incident when he came out of, we had thought we had him in a contained wooded area. We were waiting for the canine to come to search that. He somehow made it out of the contained area, but engaged our officers again and shot one of them.
Thank you.
Chief.
Thank you.
Okay.